If you wanna go full dynamic with the background, don't miss to watch this video with some very interesting tips in Lightroom to take your portrait editing to next level. This is Nagesh and welcome to NavEdits. These tips apply to Lightroom Classic too. So here's an already interesting portrait we'll be working on. First things first, we're gonna do some basic tuning in the light menu to fix some exposure. Trying to bring some details back by increasing shadows and exposure mainly. Little increase in whites and reducing blacks for a bit of contrast. Then I'll move to color menu and increase the vibrance for more color. Now I'm going to start working on the background. We'll try to make it as blurry as possible. In the blur menu, tapping on the blur slider to trigger the AI to work its way. The process is done on the cloud and we have the depth info ready now. Now we'll increase the blur strength to maximum. We'll see which preset is better to make it look more blurry. We'll settle with bubble here. You can tap on this mask icon for the depth info. Now I'll move to the masking filters. We'll start with the select subject filter, and this is a one-step process to get the mask on the subject. Need a couple of seconds to process it online and it normally works great. You see here especially how well the selection looks on the hair. As we will be more working on the background, at least for now, I'm going to long tap and choose invert mask to get the mask only on the background here. I'll first reduce the saturation to the maximum. Then going to the effects menu, we'll make sure to set the texture and clarity to minimum and also the sharpness in the detail menu. This gives the impression of more blur in the background with all the details removed. Next, I will duplicate this mask by long tapping on it and selecting duplicate. This makes the background more blurry. I'll duplicate it twice more. Here, we'll increase the blacks and reduce the whites, also the contrast to remove further details from the background. Now we'll reduce the exposure, which gets this grayish background. Now we'll duplicate this mask, which further reduces the details completely. But I don't want the background to lose the details completely though. Instead of exposure here, I'll reduce the whites and the blacks to get the background almost close to the black levels. So now we're gonna dive into creating a mask just for our subject. Now, because the AI already did the initial selection, it doesn't need to go back to the cloud to figure out the mask. It now happens locally, which makes things a lot faster. So we are focusing specifically on our subject here. What I'm going for is a kind of contrasty look. You know, where the highlights really pop and the shadows are nice and deep. To achieve that, I'm going to start by cranking up the whites a bit. This will really brighten up the lighter parts of the image. Then I will add just a touch of blacks to darken the shadows and add some depth. Next up, I'm going to reduce the exposure just a tad. This will help to balance out the overall brightness and prevent the image from looking too blown out. And finally, I'm going to add even more contrast. This will really solidify that dramatic high contrast look I'm going for. Now, I'm not going to get too bogged down in the details just yet. I'll probably come back later to fine tune the contrast and make sure everything looks just right. But for now, this gives us a solid base to work with. Here you can notice some fringing on the edges of the hair. This looks a bit odd. To correct this, I'm going to add a color range mask and place it on the part of the hair and refine the selection. Working on it till I get almost the exact selection I'm looking for. As you can see, there are more parts added to the selection which we don't need. To remove those, we just need to subtract the selection. So here choosing subtract from mask from the plus minus button and selecting linear filter and making sure the mask is on the parts where the selection need to be excluded. You see here the mask getting removed from the original color range filter. Adding one more radial filter to remove the mask from this part. Sharpening the feather to get it right. Now for this, I will reduce the exposure to make that part of the hair darker, which now blends perfectly with the remaining hair. Now that we have got the contrast looking pretty good, let's move on to the color grading. This is where we really start to bring the image to life and give it a specific mood or feel. We are going to head over to the color menu and specifically we will be using the mix section. This is where we can fine tune individual colors and really dial in the look we are after. What I'm trying to do here is adjust the skin tone. I'm noticing that there's a bit too much yellow in the skin. So I'm going to try to shift those yellows more towards the orange side of the spectrum. This should give the skin a warmer, more natural look. It's a subtle change, but it can make a big difference. I'm also going to take a look at the blues in the clothing and maybe even play around with some of the purples depending on what's in the image. This whole color grading process is really about personal preference and what you want the final image to convey. This part is if you want the final look to have color for the subject. If you want a black and white image, you would do something different. And to finish things off and add a little bit of extra polish, I'm going to pop over to the effects menu and add a vignette. This will darken the edges of the image slightly and help to draw the viewer's eye towards the subject. It's a classic effect that can add a touch of drama and focus. To make the image more interesting, I am now going to try adding some light elements to the image. We'll add a radial filter around here, making sure the feather is softer, resizing it and placing it so that it also covers some of the top part of the subject. We'll add some brightness here by tweaking almost all the sliders here. We'll also duplicate it and place it around here to make it a little more interesting. Here's the before and after, a lot of difference for you to see. There's still some room to work on the contrast though. I will this time use curves to add contrast here. This looks a lot better. I'm also going to add grain here which gives it a vintage cinematic look. Here in the effects menu to make the image a bit grainy. Fixing the skin tones a bit here. This already looks good, but this may be just my opinion, but turning this to black and white gives a more dramatic feel to it. So just tapping on the black and white button in the color menu and this already looks good. You can also go into the color menu and tweak the luminance of each color here. If you want more brightness on the skin tones here, just add luminance to the oranges. Also tuning the luminance of the colors on the clothes here. Now I will use adaptive presets on the portrait, which has AI to help you with giving some likely presets that would work better on this image. I'll choose enhance eyes here to make the eyes a bit more bright, which gives you this high contrast with a grey background with some added light elements. Hope the video was useful to you all and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.